Good evening, everybody. Welcome back into To The Point. We're all doing well on this Monday. Apologize for no Sunday show. I was a little bit under the weather. Wasn't the most energetic human being yesterday, but we're locked and loaded tonight with lots to get into from around the world of sports after a busy weekend. We have another free agent MLB player off the board. We'll talk about that later in the show. We'll see if by Wednesday, which would be 10 days, if everybody is signed. I think I'm going to be wrong in that projection, but we shall see. We're going to talk some UFC over the weekend, little Apex afternoon show. UFC 299 upcoming this weekend. Going to be phenomenal. Can't wait for that event. It's one of the best cards in recent memory, so we'll be discussing that later in the week, but we'll talk about what happened. Some NFL stories today. Jason Kelce retiring in a very emotional, passionate, send-off from him at the podium, which was nice to see. Great player. Going to the Hall of Fame. We also got Mike Evans re-upping with the Bucks. Russell Wilson. His future has been determined. So we'll talk about that coming up. But we're going to start today. Because I was thinking to start the show, we're going to start with Elias Pettersson, who re-signed with the Vancouver Canucks over the weekend. And in my opinion, a great deal for the Vancouver Canucks. I thought it was going to be more money. I was around people all weekend. I will say I was around mostly Leaf fans, and they had their opinions. But Elias Pettersson's a great, and we'll get to it. But people in Vancouver should be thrilled with this contract, by the way. But just before we're going live, I'm getting ready, prepping, putting on my hat, and I see that the New Jersey Devils have fired Lindy Ruff just 4 days before the NHL trade deadline, and with about 20 games left in the season following a New Jersey loss to the Los Angeles Kings yesterday. This makes the total list of 8 NHL head coaching changes since September. And we currently have 4 guys in the NHL, or 5 with interim handles. Jim Hiller, Travis Green, Jacques Martin, Drew Bannister, amongst others. Some of these firings make sense. You see the one in Los Angeles, Jim Hiller takes over. Los Angeles has been a better team. I thought it was a bit rash, but the proof is in the pudding. Jacques Martin in Ottawa, long time coming. For DJ Smith, new ownership. I predicted that before it happened. St. Louis, Berube was on the firing line. Again, a dead man walking, if you will. This firing's different. Lindy Ruff was given a contract extension in September after he got New Jersey to the second round of the playoffs last year. With a team that I'm going to add here, had a lot of flaws, probably shouldn't have gotten to the second round. Really small, bad goaltending, average defense, and he had that team buzzing. And this year, big expectations. You have one of the best young players in the sport in Jack Hughes, Dougie Hamilton. You trade for Tyler Toffoli from the Calgary Flames. And there's just a lot of expectations with the Devils. And they haven't lived up to it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They haven't. They've been a bad team. Currently, they are 8 points out of the last wild card, and they are 7 points out of the third slot in the Metropolitan Division. 30-27-4. No real heart on that team. A lot of injuries. Jack Hughes has missed a lot of the year. Dougie Hamilton's hardly played. Again, they don't have a number 1 or a number 2 goaltender, one could argue. But yet, With 21 games left in the season, they fire Lindy Ruff. Fans have been chanting it for years. They did it beginning of last year, and then they make the playoffs and they shut up, and then they start losing again this year, and they don't shut up about it. So, fans have a right to have an opinion. They can boo, hiss, whatever they want to do. Some buildings are louder than others. Prudential Center, actually, for, you might think, New Jersey don't have a fan base. They're actually pretty loud, and I give them credit for that. They are proud people. New Jersey fans normally like the Mets, normally like the Jets. And that's a sad existence because the Jets and the Mets have been god-awful for about 20 plus years. Devils had their time with Martin Brodeur, Patrick Elias, a great crew of players, Rob Niedermeyer, winning championships, being a relevant team in a very small market. But they're not happy with their team. A team that you look at the Eastern Conference and you go, this team should probably make the playoffs. Don't disagree. They look at themselves and say, Detroit's in a playoff spot. They shouldn't be above us. They're not wrong. Detroit's a good team. They're not a perfect team. Similar build to New Jersey, a little bit tougher. But you get a little pissed off seeing Washington ahead of you in the standings. You can't have that. Islanders above you. You can't have it. So there's frustrations there. Here's the thing. New Jersey Devils are losing games because they don't have a backbone or a spine. They are a gutless hockey team, and I view this as a gutless firing by Tom Fitzgerald. I'm sure you'll listen to different news sites, different podcasts that you like, and you'll hear the term, it had to happen, which insiders like to use. It got to a point where it just had to happen with this firing. Writing was on the wall. Cliches out the wazoo. Wrong. They lose 5-1 in LA. Did Lindy Ruff pick the forward group? Did Lindy Ruff predict that Timo Meier would be god-awful this season? Or that injuries would pop up, or Dawson Mercer would take a step back? And I like Dawson Mercer, but he hasn't been as good. Or that Palat has been kind of a disaster of a signing since they got him when it comes to not being healthy, not putting up production. You're relying on guys like Simon Nemec, Siegenthaler to play 22, 23 minutes a night. Did Lindy Ruff think it was smart to have one of the smallest teams in the league that just gives up? Was it Lindy Ruff's fault that Jack Hughes seems to have a bigger ego, than he probably deserves to have? Calling people out, saying, people come to the rink to see me, and then you lose the game. Having a gutless performance against the Los Angeles Kings. Doesn't change the fact he's one of the best players in the league, but his play has been shit. He's whined more than he's done at anything this year. 57 points, 45 games. That's good numbers, but it's not crazy good. It's okay. It's not just about the production. It's about your leadership. It's about having a team that comes prepared to play night in, night out. And to me, this is just a scapegoat thing from the Devils, from Tom Fitzgerald, because I think the New Jersey Devils wanted to get rid of Lindy Ruff last year. But he had success, so they felt they had to bring him back because the fans would be pissed, and you can't do it. So then you say, okay, we have to bring Lindy back. Now Travis Green slides in. He's a fine coach. He's had success with Vancouver. He's been an okay head coach in the NHL. Travis Green, he's fine. But to me, this firing is unwarranted. And Tom Fitzgerald gets a big extension, gets a promotion to president of hockey ops, and just he's done a shitty job of putting a good team together. Putting a small team with no backbone, no fight, and that's Lindy Ruff's fault. I watched that game yesterday against Los Angeles. That was just a pathetic performance. Pathetic. They gave up in that game. And I read an article. Oh, the next 2 games are going to decide the New Jersey Devils season. Give me a fucking break. No, it is not. They got the Devils. Let's see who they got. The Devils got the Panthers. Good luck tomorrow night. And they got St. Louis. If you win both, you're back in it. You're not going to trade to Foley. You're going to add. You're going to trade for a goalie, which you could have did for Markstrom 3 weeks ago, but you didn't pull the trigger. Tom Fitzgerald can pull the trigger on firing Lindy Ruff on a Monday afternoon, but you can't pull the trigger on acquiring Jacob Markstrom to help your team, to give your team a chance after their pathetic season so far. Lindy Ruff's old school, but he's worked it out with these players. They had success last year. And the 2023-2024 NHL season can be defined under one umbrella, and that's when the going gets tough, you fire the coach. 8 coaches fired since September. Oh, we've lost 3 or 4, we're out of the playoff mix, fire the coach. A lot of teams are going to be paying coaches to not work. Lindy Ruff, Todd McClellan are going to be paid next year to not work. I'm not sure about Babcock, but I assume he's still going to get some cash. Coaches that will not be, Pierre Dorian, know that you're in his contract. Be paid to not work. For a lot of these teams, that's got to be tough on the owner can't be happy paying all these people. And you're seeing a name come up on the dossier, and you look up and go, Lindy Ruff, what the hell are we paying him for? Oh yeah, because we fired him last year. We still missed the playoffs, which is going to happen to the Devils. 21 games is not going to change your season. 21 games is not, if they somehow make the playoffs, which I'm going to predict today, they're not going to. Even if you did, you're going to win the cup with your team? No, you're not. Travis Green, 21 game audition? So your next head coach? He was an assistant on the bench for a reason. If you wanted to be head coach, he could have been this summer. But you kept Lindy and Travis Green accepted an assistant job because you couldn't get a head coaching job anywhere else. He wasn't Rick Tocchet where he'd get fired, then he doesn't get another job. Rick Tocchet got another one. Vancouver seeked him out and said, please come coach this team. He did. There wasn't that for Travis Green. He took an assistant job because that's all that was available. Now he's interim head coach. New Jersey's a flawed team. They're built wrong, and they're going nowhere. But this firing, gutless, stupid, and I couldn't disagree with it more. Tom Fitzgerald, shame on you. Really, just, ugh. Before I move on to Pettersson, I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins for a second. They went out to Western Canada and Seattle, had a tough trip. Beat the Canucks in overtime, but everybody's been beating the Canucks lately, so not all that impressive. Then they go to Seattle, get skunked, have a 3-1 lead on the Flames, blow that, don't even get a point, and they get completely destroyed by the Edmonton Oilers last night. Zach Hyman getting a pair of goals. He's up to 42 on the season, by the way. Pittsburgh's done. They're like New Jersey. Metropolitan Division is full of mediocrity. Full of teams that just aren't that good, so it lumps everybody together. And you must be getting sick of hearing this from me, but I'm the only person that actually sees this. I see the forest from the trees. You see these other people. Oh, it's so difficult in the Eastern Conference. Bullshit it is. It's full of mediocrity. And that's why it seems like it's a difficult conference, difficult division. Wrong. It's incorrect. So that's why I have to keep saying it, to keep you guys in line with me. Not like these other buffoons out there. But Sidney Crosby was asked after the game if he was on the same page with management, or did the weekend make the trade deadline that much more clear for the team? And he gave a snarky answer for Sid, who normally gives nothing, is as bland as a piece of bread without anything on it. It's there, it's food, you consume it, but it's not exactly nutritious. But he was a little snarky. He said, I don't know what page you're talking about, and kind of went after the reporter. Good for Sid. I was proud of him for showing personality for the first time in 20 years, but it was nice to see. But the reporter asked a good question. Could have framed it better. But he asked a fair question, saying, Sid, like, what's going on here? What are your thoughts? And I think Sidney Crosby is so loyal to a fault, and it's more, the fault is becoming more and more clear. I don't believe in life that being loyal to somebody or something that's not benefiting you in any way is necessary or even smart or something that people should do. Jordan Peterson, one of the smartest Canadians we got, that's what he says. He always goes, you don't have to be around negative people. You don't have to keep people in your life that bring negativity and don't help you in any sort of way. And I look at Sidney Crosby and I see the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins might become relevant, might become a Stanley Cup champion if they switch over to becoming bingo players. They go down to the senior center. They might become a great team. They might do some damage if they start playing bingo against the 80 plus range of people, because that's what they are. They're the AARP Penguins. They're old. They're slow, their goalies are bad, and Sidney Crosby's the best player at 36 years old on that team, and that's incredible, but also a detriment at the same time, because he shouldn't be. Shouldn't have to be. The second best player on the team shouldn't be Geno Malkin at 35 or 30, however old he is. He's old too. Carlson, Letang, don't mesh, don't play well together. Power play is atrocious. Tristan Jarry has been very good. It's not going to happen this week. But I see Sidney Crosby, I'm sure he wants to play for one team his whole career. And that's great when you go in the Hall of Fame. You can say, I started a Penguin, I finished as a Penguin. But I've made this argument before. Just because you're born somewhere doesn't mean you have to stay in that location the rest of your life. You can. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But if it behooves you to leave that location for a better opportunity, a better life, whatever it might be, I think you should capitalize on that opportunity. But sticking in a space that isn't going to benefit you, that's not going to give you the best chance to be successful, to me is stupid. They love Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. 3 Stanley Cups, captain, greatest player in franchise history, maybe. And he's done everything he could possibly do. They should trade him to the offseason, in the offseason. He'll have to agree to it, but it's best for the team and it's best for the player. Kyle Dubas got a 7-year contract because this team isn't very good, and I think he knew it. But he left the lease because he get a job with a better title, more money, in more years. More power to him. He tried to keep it relevant, getting Erik Karlsson. It was a swing and a miss. But now he's got 6 years left in that contract to try to rebuild this thing. Try to make it relevant again. But to me, it's going to have to be without Sidney Crosby. Trading Erik Karlsson, not easy. You want to trade Chris Letang. They're not going to run it back and make it better because they don't have the prospects, they don't have the trade assets to do it. This week, they're going to trade Jake Guentzel to a contender. I think it'll be Vegas, but we'll see. That's a piece out the door that'll help your team. They have Rickard Rakell for another 4 years at $5 million. Rickard Rakell is got 8 goals on the season. Brian Rust, good player, but I think he's got 5 years on his deal. Brian Rust. Oof. Marcus Pettersson, he's got some years. Ryan Graves has another 5. Malkin, long-term. Crosby's been great. Jari, signed long-term. It's time to turn the page. The Penguins are no longer a contender. They're going to miss the playoffs for the 2nd straight year. Crosby may have 2 more years of this elite player. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe it carries over longer if he's got better talent around him. Colorado's the fit. Go play with Nathan MacKinnon. Pittsburgh trades him to the Western Conference, so he's out of sight, out of mind. 2 Nova Scotia guys chasing another ring. They have the team to do it. They could really use him this year. Not going to happen, but I don't think it's this storybook thing everybody else does. So we play for one organization. It's the perfect way to go. Okay. Move on. Team sucks. It's going nowhere. And yes, the rest of the division isn't very good either, but I mean, it's time to turn the page for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And last night really was the nail in the coffin of this season is over. We're going to trade away Jake Guentzel. They might trade away Riley Smith as well this week. If they could move a defenseman, I think they would, but I don't know if anybody wants any of them. Quite frankly. So we'll see what happens. Elias Pettersson. If you didn't know, Saturday morning he signed an 8-year, $11.6 million per year extension with the Vancouver Canucks. That makes Pettersson the 5th highest paid player in the league. Keeping him in Vancouver long term. and keeping them competitive in all likelihood. Even though they've been struggling as of late, although they did get a win last night in Anaheim. I love this deal for Vancouver. Couple things. For him to sign 8 years surprised me, but it's also a major win for Jimmy Rutherford and Patrick Allvin. Because not every player is signing for 8 years. I've been arguing players shouldn't be signing 8-year contracts because you can double dip and do more. Look at, just think, everybody does it. Austin Matthews didn't do it, and that was a couple months ago. So, not every player signs for 8 years. You're giving up free agent years. You're giving up potential money as the salary cap goes up. And so signing an 8-year deal is a win. He's in his prime. He's one of the best players in the league. He might be the best 200-foot player in the league, period. Win. $11.6 million. Again, speaking with my friends, I trust them, and they got good sports knowledge. I mean, they're not on my level. I mean, few are. I mean, come on. But they're good. They're good people. I love them, But when you're talking to them, I love it. I love to do it. Love chopping it up. When you're talking to the GOAT of, sports knowledge here, it's get lost in the weeds a little bit. And I heard a lot of, well, it's not a good contract. I mean, William Nylander's a better player than Elias Pettersson, which made me laugh a little bit. Bill Nylander, good player. Good player. Pettersson makes 500 large more than Bill Nylander year over year. Pettersson plays center. Pettersson is a penalty killer. Pettersson is asked to do more from the Vancouver Canucks than Bill Nylander is on the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example. Pettersson's the first one to come over the boards. Bill Nylander, at best, is the second line to come over the boards in key situations. So, while I think Nylander's great, it's interesting to me that's an overpay there, but Nylander was a good contract. Pettersson's just a better player. When I go down the line of people and contracts that I like, dislike, things of that nature, I look around and go, this is a good deal. 8 years. The bullshit is over. The rumored trade to Carolina is dead, which was crazy, by the way. You get your guy. You get to move on. Vancouver currently sits first in the Western Conference, although Winnipeg's right on their tail. But you're winning some games, having success, have had an incredible year. Pettersson, 75 points, plays 19 minutes a night, does a lot of things well. Plus 13 for all the old heads out there, which ain't bad. You got Miller locked up. You got Pettersson, Hughes, Hronek. Do they want to keep Lindholm? You got your core and your goalie locked up. So you have your nucleus of your team locked up in Vancouver with the head coach really like. Jimmy Rutherford got an extension. Allvin got an extension this year. Things are looking good in Van City. And I really have nothing bad to say about this extension. I think it's good business. You get a good player to stay in your organization. You might have him for the rest of his career. You keep free agent years. And I just look at top salaries. Matthews is going to be the highest paid player in the league. You got Nathan McKinnon. Just a second, finding this here on this stupid website. Erik Karlsson, $11.5 million. I'd rather have Pettersson, $11.6. Pasternak, $11.25. Tavares, $11 million. Doughty, $11 million. Marner, $10.9. I'm just going down this list. Panarin makes more money than Pettersson. That's a sin. Think about that, Canucks fans. Artemi Panarin, it's 11.6, 0.42. It's a little bit more. But Pettersson's a center. He does way more. He cares. He actually breaks a sweat during a game. He gives a shit more than Artemi Panarin. And Artemi Panarin makes more money than Elias Pettersson. Is $11.6 million a lot of money? Yes. Sure it is. No denying it. But is it 13? Is it 13.125? Is it 12.6 like McKinnon? No. So, it's just, I thought it'd be 12 plus. Because he's a center, because he's free, because he's a really good player. Does a lot of things, a lot of really good, smart little things for a team. But they got him at a good deal. Salute to Vancouver. Good business, in my opinion. Over the weekend, Chris Tanev dealt to the Dallas Stars. For a second rounder, they also get a second rounder, Grushnikov, the defenseman, in the deal. And a conditional third if Dallas wins the Stanley Cup. Good piece of business for Dallas. I love the Dallas Stars. They've hit the ditch a little bit. They've won their last 3 in a row since calling up Logan Stankoven. That team's 3 goals in 4 games. They've turned the corner a little bit. To me, Dallas is the benchmark in the Western Conference. They are, to me, a really good. They were in a conference final last year. They added Tanev on the back end. Thomas Harley has been one of the best stories in the NHL this year on the back end, just period. Anybody. I love Heiskanen. Jason Robertson quietly also having a down season in points, leads that team in points. Duchesne's had a fantastic season, making $3 million on a buyout. Hintz, Pavelski, Marchment, Sagan, Johnson, Heiskanen, Jamie Benn, Harley, Dadonov. I mean, I'm going down this list. They got some good players. Tanev, Suter, Faxa, Hakanpanya. They got a big defense. They can defend. They're looking good. I like the Dallas Stars. I like that deal for them. Teams weren't willing to give up a first. I salute teams for not doing that. Dallas did do it. Dallas got Tanev because they were willing to throw in another prospect that clearly the Flames liked. Tanev's not worth the first. Teams saying we're not going to do it. Good. The Toronto Maple Leafs would have loved to get Chris Tanev. Certainly over Ilya Lyubushkin. And Lyubushkin is fine. Lyubushkin comes in, adds another 5-6 defenseman to the Maple Leafs defense. And they have a lot of them already. And that might sound harsh, but it's the truth. He's going to play with Morgan Rielly. They might be a great pair. I don't know yet. I saw them play one game together, and he couldn't play the third period because Matt Rempe took his head off. But apparently he had a head injury because Sheldon Keefe was bitching about it after the game, and he's going to be able to play tonight. So much for concussions, right? Get to Sheldon Keefe in a minute. I got some thoughts on him. But the Leafs would have loved him. A lot of teams would have liked Chris Tanev because he plays hard, he defends, he blocks shots. He's a top 4 defense. Lyubushkin isn't. That's the difference. But you get Lyubushkin. Lyubushkin's familiar with Toronto. He will compete. He wants to be on a good team. They have that connection. But as the deadline approaches, things could change. But I don't expect it to be a big week for the Maple Leafs. I don't expect them to make a whole lot of trades. Getting Lyubushkin, maybe they get a depth forward that could be in play for them. But to me, their team is their team. Samsonov was great on Saturday night in that win against the New York Rangers in a very entertaining affair. Rempe, Ryan Reeves going toe-to-toe. That was great at center ice with 5:59 left. Then Reeves saying this morning that kid's going to be around for a while. He kept me up till 6:30 a.m. just thinking about it, vibrating. But I don't know if Toronto will do much. Looking at I'm going to find the trade bait board here if I can, here on tsn.ca. If I go here, NHL. So I'm going to pull up the trade bait board. Number 1, Jake Gensel. 2, Noah Hannafin. He'll be traded. Henrique. Jacob Chikrin. Sean Walker. Tarasenko in Ottawa. Frankie Vetrano. Matt Dumba, which I heard a first-round pick attached to him, which is just lunacy. But there's not a whole lot of great names on there. Like Gensel is obviously the big prize, and Hannafin would be great. He's rumored with the Tampa Bay Lightning, who need a defenseman with the injury to Mikhail Sergachev. They have the money to bring him in. But this deadline week, there will be moves, but I don't know if there won't be a lot of impactful ones. In my mind, depth pieces if anything happens. Tommy Novak was re-signed by the red-hot Nashville Predators today, who have quietly won 8 in a row, including a win against Colorado on Saturday night. The Preds are 7 points back of Colorado. Right there with Los Angeles in the wildcard race. They have a 7-point lead up on the Flames and the Blues for the final wildcard spot. Again, winning 5-1. Tommy Novak gets an extension, $3.5 million a year. He's been great for them. Just consistent every night. He had a 3-point game on Saturday. But Yossi's got the most points by a defenseman in the second half of the season. UC Saros, been really good. But they could be a pain in the ass in the playoffs, potentially. Gus Nyquist has been better than I ever thought. O'Reilly, Tommy Novak, Sissons, Luke Evangelista, who I like. McDonough getting that veteran leadership on that team. Obviously a Stanley Cup champion. We'll see. Minnesota's still in the mix-ish. Blues, Flames, who credit to the Flames, who refuse to quit. You trade Tanev, you trade Lindholm, you trade Zadorov. Markstrom's pissed. And yet you're still in the playoff mix. They're going to trade Hannafin this week. And you just look around and go, they're still winning games. Come from 3-1 down the third period to beat Pittsburgh. They have a game against Seattle tonight. Hosting Seattle. Home to Seattle, at Tampa. Thursday at Florida, Saturday at Carolina on Sunday, at home to the Avalanche, home to the Golden Knights. Tough stretch coming up for the Calgary Flames. We'll see how they manage, but credit to them and the season that they put forth with everything that's been thrown their way. Sheldon Keefe. I want to talk about this for a minute. Sheldon Keefe got fined last week. Sheldon Keefe needs to shut up. He needs to shut up, and he yells after every play. It's never the Leafs' fault. It's never a penalty. It's just constantly bitching. And clearly the refs are sick of it. I think the league's sick of it. I'm sick of it. Just behave behind the bench. Looking like that's not going to help your team. Period. Just isn't. You don't look professional. You're not going to get any help with that attitude. There's not some vendetta against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was always, they don't like the Toronto Maple Leafs around the league. Oh, Matt Rempe didn't get suspended. They hate the Leafs. Save it. My God. He hit Lyubushkin hard. Did he leave his feet? You could say so. But he hit him hard, went into the boards, hit his head against the glass. To me, he hit him. But he bitches about trips. He bitches about everything. Honestly, help your team and don't be such a whiner. You look desperate. It looks contrived. It looks kind of pathetic. Try to show off some confidence. I think the fan base is starting to believe in your team. Maybe believe in your team too. Let them fight out of it. Let them kill off a penalty. For Christ's sake. God. Tonight, Bruins Maple Leafs in Toronto. They also play in Boston on Thursday. So they play twice in 4 days. And it's important because currently the Florida Panthers have the best record in the NHL. But Florida has played 61 games. They have 86 points. Boston has played 62 games. They have 84 points. Toronto has played 60. They have 78 points. Toronto wins 2 games against Boston. They are 2 back of the Bruins in the standings. You look, Toronto's got Boston twice this week, Buffalo in the middle. Boston in Toronto tonight hosts the Red Hot Oilers tomorrow, and then hosting the Maple Leafs on Thursday. So both teams have difficult weeks. But Toronto's playing a whole lot better. They have evened Boston in the win column on the season. They both have 35. Boston has 14 overtime or gimmick losses, which is a staggering number. Staggering. The Maple Leafs are playing like a team. Yarncroke makes the team look a whole lot better with Robertson being out of the lineup. A little heavier, a little bit better. Defensive pairings still need some work. Still would like some help in a perfect world. But they have juice. They can move the puck around. Matthews confident. Marner's been a different player the second half of the season. Tavares is doing his thing, which isn't a whole lot, but he's out in the ice. Second line's been better. You look at the Bruins, they got crushed in Long Island on Saturday, 5-1. Kyle Palmieri had a natural hat trick in the first period. DeBrusk is on the trading block, which I don't get. Because while his regular season hasn't been all that impressive, I will take him. 27 points in 60 games is garbage. However, he's a gamer. He's a playoff performer. I would take him on my team in a second. But really, you can look around and go, they've had some problems where you're playing Witherspoon, you're playing guys on the back end who probably doesn't deserve minutes. Mason Lohrei, I think, is going to be a good player in the NHL. But he's playing bigger minutes. He was a -3 on Saturday night. You're missing a key centerman, and they need to trade for one. And I don't know if there's an impact guy available for the Bruins, how active they'll be. I hear rumors they're going to be on Noah Hannafin. I don't really get that. I think they need help up front more than they do on the back end. Be great to have Hannafin. Their D would be better, but can they score goals to keep up with teams? I don't know. Could you trade Linus Ullmark to get a better player, to get some cap room, to find a player up front, make a bigger deal? Remains to be seen. But these are important games. Leafs still believe they can be the best team in the Atlantic Division by the end of the year. And they're not wrong. They could be. Boston was better than the Leafs all year. They want to keep it that way. Boston still has a chance to win the Atlantic and still has a chance to win the President's Trophy for back-to-back years, which is a rare thing to do. And that's not out of the picture either. Although you look at their play lately and you go, it's not going to happen. But this is a 4-point game. It's for seeding. It's extremely important as we go forward. So fun game tonight. Panthers in New York to play the Rangers. Another really fun game. Best team in the Atlantic. Best team in the Metropolitan. Shesterkin, Bobrovsky, Red Hot Panthers, who shut out the Red Wings on Saturday. Sam Reinhart, 23rd power play goal of the season, got up to 42 goals total on the season. To think Spencer Knight hasn't played an NHL game all year. Been an American League goalie from day one. Anthony Stolarz has been a very good backup. They keep winning without him. Panthers are good. My only worry for them, are they peaking too quickly? We'll see. They got the Rangers tonight. Rangers fought to get a point against the Leafs on Saturday. Rempe Mania continues at MSG tonight. Vegas and Columbus finishing up a road trip. They have been struggling. Looks like Jack Eichel might make his return, so a big boost for the Golden Knights there. St. Louis in Philadelphia to play the Flyers. Connor Bedard, the Blackhawks, are in Colorado, and the Kraken and Flames, as we mentioned earlier. So busy enough Monday night in the NHL. A lot of games that mean a lot in the standings. So we'll see what happens, but it should be a fun night of hockey. That is for sure. Just checking before we flip the page here. Nothing new on the trade deadline front. No trades, no breaking news. So we'll keep that until tomorrow. Let's pivot to football. First off, I want to say that Chris Mortensen, longtime NFL insider reporter for the Mothership, passed away yesterday. He was 72. He had been diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer in 2016 and lived until now, which is pretty incredible. Guy was a fighter. You could see how much he was loved by his coworkers, by just the sheer number of people that took the time to really praise him Nobody said a bad word about him. They all loved Chris Mortensen, said he was just a guy that wanted other people to succeed as much as he wanted himself to succeed, help people in the industry. He talked to the head honchos at ESPN and got them to hire Adam Schefter, which you would think that your biggest competition, the guy who breaks the most stories, who probably did the job better than Mortensen did, he still got him hired, which kind of tells you what kind of a man, what kind of a friend he was. So, seeing that, it was a sad thing to see him die. I knew he was sick for a very long time. But he was on Monday Night Countdown. He was always on, these shows. You're seeing it, though. There's Chris Mortensen. Really good friends with Keyshawn Johnson, which I did not know. I know they work together, but Keyshawn in a very touching tribute to Chris Mortensen. But sad to see that. Then, today, Jason Kelce tweeted out this morning, press conference this afternoon, where I will address my future. He announced his retirement from the NFL. 13 years, all in Philadelphia, 2 Super Bowl appearances, won 1, was drafted by Andy Reid. 36, 45-minute speech, which, pretty incredible. Talked a lot about his wife, talked a lot about his parents, Travis. Travis was in attendance, got emotional. First team All-Pro in 6 of his last 7 seasons. So that's age 29 to 36, first team All-Pro. Started out playing football as a running back, then pivoted to right guard, then pivoted to center. He's got the most popular sports podcast in the world, New Heights. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer in Canton, Ohio. The only thing that's unfortunate to me is he won't be going in with his brother. That would have been cool if they would have went in together. The 3 kids, beautiful wife. The city of Philadelphia loves him like crazy. One of the best centers to ever play the sport, period. And hell of a career to Jason Kelce. I think he's going to do crazy good things after his playing career. He's already got the podcast. So you have that already. Then you look around and go, I think he's going to be working for a media company next year, whether it's NBC, who could use him, CBS, who could use him. I just think there's some of these teams that need Jason Garrett being replaced by Jason Kelce would be good, quite frankly. CBS has a lot of older faces. Bring in the new generation. Jason Kelce would be, if he wants to do it, I think he'll get a job, just like when J.J. Watt retired. J.J. Watt got a job right away. But it'll be tough to see him not playing. It's Cam Jurgens, who is a guard on the Eagles, will be the new center for the Eagles next season. But a hell of a career. A 6th-round pick to a 13-year career, all with the same team. Pretty incredible stuff. Then, later today, this is news I think we all knew was coming. We just didn't know when. The Denver Broncos, and in particular, Sean Payton, has not been the biggest fan of Russell Wilson. He's kind of made comments, he's yelled at him on the sidelines, saying our next quarterback we hope will be here for years and years to come. Kind of insinuating that they're already moving off of their current quarterback. Well, Russell Wilson was told by the organization today that they will be releasing him at the start of the new league year, which is next week. Because starting next Monday, teams can start negotiating. It's kind of that talking window where teams can start talking to players and signing deals. Free agency really will be from Monday to Wednesday of next week, where all the big names are signed and a lot of things will be going down. But this is from George Payton, the president of the Broncos. We spoke to Russell Wilson today to inform him of his release after the start of the league year. On behalf of the Broncos, we thank Russell for his contributions and dedication to our team and community while wishing him the best as he continues his career. As we move forward, we are focused on building the strongest team possible for the 2024 season and beyond. We are excited to improve this offseason, and we will have flexibility to get better through the draft and free agency. Russell Wilson's 35, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, had a pretty good year last year. Russell Wilson is not my cup of tea. I don't think I'd get along well with Russell Wilson. I think he's kind of an egomaniac. Seems like a guy that's focused more on himself than he is others. But was he the problem this year in Denver? No, he wasn't. So I can't throw everything on him. That would be unfair. But he's gone. Denver moving on. Do they want to get a veteran like Kirk Cousins, like Baker Mayfield? Do they want to try to trade up in the draft to try to get a Drake May or to get a J.J. McCarthy, who seemed to have a great week at the Combine, the Michigan quarterback, which I don't really get, but again, people love him. Here's the juicy details. This is courtesy of Jeff Legwold, ESPN's senior writer. The Denver Broncos have informed, so that's what I just read you. The big news here. So the Broncos signed Wilson to a 5-year, $242.6 million deal after his arrival and will take an $85 million dead money cap hit over the next 2 seasons because of the release. In the coming weeks, Denver will have to decide whether to take the biggest part of that dead money hit in the 2024 or the 2025 season. $85 million. To think you traded for him, Seattle got the better deal. Seattle made the playoffs in one of the 2 years. Geno Smith, you could argue, has been a better quarterback than Russell Wilson over the last 2 years. Matt Ryan in 2022 for the Falcons had $40.5 million in dead cap. Aaron Rodgers, $40.3 million for the Packers this past year. Tom Brady for the Bucs, $35 this past year. Carson Wentz in 2021 had $33.8 million in dead cap. Russell Wilson has $45 extra million in dead cap than the next highest paid player in NFL history. To me, this is simple. Sean Payton's not going to be happy about that dead cap number in any of the 2024 or 2025. That's clear. However, he's used to that because that's all he did when he was in New Orleans. They're still trying to recover from it. They still have dead cap out the wazoo. They have to cut people. They have to move people around. Reportedly, they are now shopping Marshawn Lattimore, who's one of the best corners in the NFL. because they can't afford to keep him on the roster because they have so much dead money because they're still paying guys that they've cut and they got to move shit around and the organization's a complete disaster. So Sean Payton knows this. He knows this life. But I would take it this year. Because let's say they're in love with J.J. McCarthy. And they want to draft and they trade up, and they might trade up to the teens, or they might wait with their own pick and take J.J. McCarthy. They can draft him. I don't think J.J. McCarthy's ready to play in the NFL, quite frankly. They might disagree. But he had everything just put on his plate. He didn't have to do much at Michigan. They ran the ball, bootlegs. It was pretty easy for J.J. McCarthy. And he ran the offense and only lost one game in college, which kudos. But a lot of guys had tougher roads than he did. And you look, the Broncos have pick 12. Minnesota's above them. They might want a quarterback. That's a risk. Jets, Bears, but they're going to make their decision. Falcons could be in the mix there. Tennessee, maybe. Giants, apparently have been talking to quarterbacks. But I think if Denver really likes J.J. McCarthy, I think they can stay there at 12 and get him. I think it'd be taking the player way too high. But if I was Denver, I'd take the larger chunk of that cap hit this year, draft J.J. McCarthy, bring in a veteran who can play, like a Gardner Minshew, if you will, if he wants to come in and play for Denver. Start with Gardner Minshew to start the year. JJ on the bench. Maybe halfway through, you bring him in and get some reps. If he is, in fact, your quarterback of the future. Because to me, he still has to learn some stuff. He needs to learn that it's not just going to be easy peasy, line it up, run the football 29 times a game, then I throw it 14. That's not going to work. They tried to do that in Denver last year. They didn't win many games. So we'll see what happens. But it's a huge number. Russell Wilson becomes a free agent. So now you look around, you have Kirk Cousins, Baker, Russ, Minshew, Wentz, even though he only played one game last year. I think he might get another crack. NFL free agent quarterbacks. There's only so many guys available that can actually start for your team. Flacco's out there. Jacoby Brissett. I like Jacoby Brissett. He could have started some games for Washington last year. They would have won them. Tannehill is available. Tannehill will be scooped up. Blaine Gabbert. Andy Dalton. Yeah, the Dalton man still out there. Was with Carolina last year. Those are really the main guys that you're going to look at when it comes to veteran quarterbacks available. And you got Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Minnesota. Do they want to keep Kirk Cousins? Denver now in the mix. Tampa, obviously. So, some names to keep in mind. As I said, the league year technically begins on March 15th, I believe it is. However, the talking period is before that, and that will begin next Monday, or I think it's next Monday. So, next week will be a big NFL week. A lot of signings. Could see some deals. A quarterback that you might have said, is he going to go back? Is he going to pick another spot? To me, Baker Mayfield will be going back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in large part because of this move today. Mike Evans, a lifer with the Buccaneers, 10 years in the NFL, all with the Bucs, Super Bowl champion, 10 straight years of 1,000 yards receiving, signed a 2-year, $52 million extension with the Buccaneers today, with 35 of that contract guaranteed. Adam Schefter described it as a relationship hire. Jason Light, the GM, his first draft pick was Mike Evans. Mike Evans has been great for the Bucs, was great with Tom Brady. As I mentioned, won a Super Bowl. They won a playoff game last year. They got to the divisional round. Baker had a great comeback season. And Mike Evans, I think, looked around and go, I want to play with a contender. I want to play with a team that has a chance to win. I don't think he'd go back if he didn't have assurances that Baker Mayfield would soon be joining him. They'd run it back with one another. Mike Evans, still one of the great receivers in the league. So consistent, so big, can make tough catches. He's legit. He's tough. Veteran, still can play. I like it. A lot of guaranteed money. But fun stuff. Fun, good for Mike Evans. I believe that Baker will be signing a contract in the near future. Before free agency, he'll be back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he's so good, too valuable. He's their best option. He's got familiarity with the team. Mike Evans likes him. There's just too many check marks for Mike Evans not to return. To Baker Mayfield not to return to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now. So I expect that to happen in the coming days with Mike Evans re-signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There will be more NFL stories as time goes on here. But those are the big stories of the day. But Russell Wilson, $85 million in dead cap money. My God. That is a staggering number. Kind of hard to process that. But they're doing it. Here's a new report. Steelers not interested in Cousins, Mayfield, Fields, Wilson. Mike DeFabio, The Athletic. Which is interesting. They said they want to bring in competition for Kenny Pickett. I could see Tannehill going there, but something else. I don't know. I would be interested in those guys because I'm not just bringing Kenny Pickett back. That would not be my approach. But we'll see. Also NFL, today is the annual game of franchise tag where you can place a tag on players. Chiefs did it with L'Jarius Sneed. They'll still trade him if they can't come to a deal. And they have until tomorrow at 5 o'clock to figure that out, what they want to do with certain players. T. Higgins, as we talked about, has already been franchise tagged by the Cincinnati Bengals. So he will be returning next season. We've talked about the running backs who won't be getting franchise tagged. but nothing big on that front yet. Chris Jones can't because they did to L'Jarius Sneed, so they'll need to work out a deal with him if he's going to return to the Kansas City Chiefs. So keep an eye on that as well as we move forward here. Let's talk baseball. Spring training's ongoing. Not watching the games, as I've talked about, just not for me. I keep track of different at-bats. I saw Vladdy hit a home run today. Great. Gosman is not throwing. He's got a hurt shoulder. Manoah, brutal start. Yamamoto threw 19 pitches in his first outing as a major leaguer, which obviously was impressive. Juan Soto going deep. Garrett Cole not happy about a Daniel Vogelbach trot, which, spicy, spring training. I like all that. But still the biggest headline is the players who remain unsigned. Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, JD Martinez, Joey Votto now back in the mix as he made an appearance on the Dan Patrick Show last Friday talking about how he did not want his career to end yet, still wants to play. He'd be a great analyst, great interview, really fun, entertaining. Whenever he wants that side of the next phase of his life to happen, he's got an opportunity because I think he'll be great at it. But another free agent came off the board on Saturday, I believe. Matt Chapman, formerly of the Toronto Blue Jays, signed a 3-year, $54 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. He's going to the Bay Area, and just like his buddy Cody Bellinger, he will have opt-outs after the first 2 seasons of that deal. This is another Scott Boras client accepting what the market had available to him. Matt Chapman, I think, went into free agency saying, I'm the best third baseman available, which he wasn't wrong. Defensively, nobody's better than me. There's not that many great third basemen available. True, I'm going to make a pile of dough. But you go through December, winter meetings, you go through January, February, you're into March, and you're like, hey, Scott, I'm not getting any money here. Nobody's offering me any services. The Blue Jays won't even match the best offer. What am I going to do? And Boras, San Francisco they love doing this. They did it to help Boras out with Michael Conforto. They now do it with Matt Chapman, giving a player a deal, signing a player to make it seem like they were aggressive in free agency. San Francisco was second to getting Aaron Judge. They were second place to getting Shohei Ohtani. Yet they get none of them. But you can report that. It makes you look good. Makes your fan base feel a certain way, I suppose. But now they get Matt Chapman. And Scott Boras went to the press conference, which of course he did. He talked about the pitchers at the press conference, saying, yeah, the market's going to heat up. It's so vibrant for these pitchers. It's like a bidding war. Is basically what I'm going to find what he said, because I like listening to David Sampson talk about this because I think he's really smart, and he's got a great podcast called Nothing Personal if you hasn't listened to it. Here's Boras on pitchers. In the past week, we've had 4 new teams calling these guys, ... There is a pitching panic going on right now. We've got so many starting pitchers that are now compromised, maybe short-term, some long-term, and the calls for elite starters are starting to increase. He's not wrong about some pitchers being compromised. You have Senga with the Mets, Manoah, starter adjacent, compromised. We just talked about Gosman. The Dodgers don't have a whole lot of reliable arms right now. There are guys around baseball who aren't going to be healthy probably to start the year or compromised. Do I think it's a vibrant, just an electric market for those starting pitchers right now? I don't. I think it's bullshit. because nobody is going to give Blake Snell $200 million. And I believe that Blake Snell is going to be different from these other guys, and he's not going to take this 3 years, $50 million with opt-outs because he's a two-time Cy Young winner, and his stuff could be getting worse. He already doesn't throw a whole lot of innings. How is his season going to be better than it was last year? If he signs with a team with high expectations, he's going to be looked at to be a great pitcher for that team. He pitched on San Diego last year where they were god-awful. They weren't close to making the playoffs. Never were in it from about July on. Jordan Montgomery's probably saying, I won a goddamn World Series. I was better than anybody in that series. Throughout the playoffs, I was dynamite. I can't get a longer-term deal. I have to take these little deals and just accept them. You get a year older, I don't see these pitchers getting much of anything more than what they get right now. And that's why I don't think the market's heating up. I don't think these guys are going to make $100 million plus. I really don't. I don't see. The only way I see that is Blake Snell takes like $20 million a year, and he's not gonna. I could see 3 years, 90 maybe. But even then, $30 million a year for a guy that can go 5 2/3 innings on a given day. Montgomery won't get as much as Snell. He might be more reliable, which is crazy to think about. But he can throw longer into games, I can tell you that, than Blake Snell does. Scott Boras will never admit defeat, which credit to him, but I also don't think he's done a great job for his clients this offseason. Chapman, not a great deal. In an offseason where there wasn't that many great players available, and there was really not that many great infielders, and you got $16 million a year in year one, Bellinger gets a better deal than Chapman, and Bellinger is a de facto first baseman at times and was a .211 hitter the year before he gets that huge. He has this breakout season with the Cubs. I said the pitchers were going to be signed by 10 days. That was last Sunday. So that's really till tomorrow or Wednesday. They're not gonna. This is going to continue. It's March 4th today. Again, opening day for the Dodgers is in a couple weeks in Korea and the Padres. They'll be signed by then. But I don't think teams are just going to wilt because Scott Boras goes to a press conference and says the market is just completely heating up. I don't think it is. It might be lukewarm. You want to improve your team? Sure. If we can do it for the right price, we'd love to. Would it be great for the Orioles to get one of these two guys? Yes, because they lost one of their starters. They've lost guys out of the bullpen. They could use some pitching. But the Orioles really don't like to spend money. So it's not a good team for Scott Boras to see an injury out of because they're not going to spend the money. Red Sox, Rafael Devers might be pissed off. They're not. Tigers, no. Astros are too smart. They're not going to do it. Nationals stink. Braves, I don't think so. Phillies just signed Zach Wheeler to a 3-year, $126 million extension today while he was under contract. So I don't think they're going to be adding guys now with the payroll the way it is. Yankees, always said I think the Yankees will get one of the two of them, either Montgomery or Snell. So I think the Yankees are in the mix. Twins, no. Mets don't need more payroll. Marlins, no. Pirates, no. Cardinals, no. Blue Jays, no. Rays, no. Dodgers, maybe. Royals, no. Angels. Maybe, because I think the Angels are stupid. Rockies, no. Rangers could bring back Montgomery. Maybe. I put them in the mix. Cincy, no. Padres, no. Cubs, no. Athletics, no. Diamondbacks have spent more than they ever have. White Sox, no. Brewers, rebuild, no. San Francisco just signed their player. Guardians, no. And Mariners, no. So there's about 5 teams they're going to sign these guys. JD Martinez is different because he's a DH. And he can still produce. Any team can bring him up because he's just a bat. And he's a first baseman / DH. Joey Votto, same thing. I think JD Martinez will be playing baseball this year. I'm not so sure about Joey Votto, which is too bad. He's the best Canadian baseball player of all time. Great Cincinnati Red. Obviously didn't win a World Series, but hell of a career. Hall of Famer. But baseball, Scott Boras continues to make the content go around. Good for him. News, Jack Eichel will return tonight for Vegas against Columbus. They need all the help they can get, so Jack Eichel back in the lineup tonight. We'll close out the show. Quiet UFC event over the weekend. Biggest win would be Muhammad Mahayev defeats Alex Perez, former champion. Mahayev's now 6-0 in the UFC, 4 finishes. He called for the title fight at UFC 301. I don't know what the UFC is going to do. Because Pantoja is 2-0 against Royval, 3-0 against Moreno, 1-0 against Manel Kape. He's beaten everybody in this division. I would do the Mahayev fight. I think it makes sense. It's a fresh fight. But I get the feeling they're going to do Royval versus Pantoja 3. Because two good fighters. Royval just beat Brandon Moreno. He will go anywhere to fight anybody. He is that kind of guy. We'll see. Umar Nurmagomedov got back in the cage for the first time in a long time. 30-25 win. Just dominant. Didn't get the finish, but looked great. Like to see him get a step up in competition. His next time out, him and Sandhagen would be a lot of fun. Steve Erceg, another flyweight. Nasty KO of Matt Schnell. He calls for Brandon Moreno on the Noche UFC card, which, good call out. He's a good fighter, undefeated in UFC, started his UFC career on short notice, gets his first finish, and he's a rising guy in the flyweight division. If he can throw a couple wins together, he could very much be in the title picture. And Omar Zahibi, Canadian, huge win over Javid Bashrat, was at one point a plus 700 underdog, wins all 3 rounds, has won his last 4 fights. Real good fighter. Looks like Ariel Helwani, which is funny. But the dude's good. He knows how to fight. Really good on the ground. Biggest win of his career. Big win for him. As I said, start of the podcast, UFC 299 is this weekend in the 305. My homeland, some have said, in Miami. Sugar Sean O'Malley against Marlon Chito Vera. We'll be talking about it here all week on To The Point. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll also be doing a Friday trade deadline special, so stay tuned for all of that this coming week. Until then, take care, enjoy your evening. Talk to you Wednesday here on To The Point.